for a ballpark number, what does your average client make with their Airbnb per year?
It's tough to answer. It varies a ton. I would say if you're making 50% of the gross amount that comes in, you're doing pretty good. I think most of my clients are in the 56, 57% because we're a lower priced option. There's not really any specific area. Mammoth is 1 mile wide, right? Something like that. There's really no bad place. You know, there's nothing better than the other. I find that people will rent over by Eagle Lodge. They'll rent up by Canyon Lodge. And town's great because you can walk to Vaughn's, you can walk to Distant Brewery, you know, things like that. So every place has its good and bad, I guess.
And that's what I say too. I like downtown too. And when I say downtown, just like Jason said, we're talking about like between Grocery Outlet and Vaughn's, Sierra Nevada Resort, that whole area. It's kind of downtown. I like it, just like, but for your reasons too. Also because it's flat. You know, you can like you said, you can walk everywhere.
Joseph, if not already, soon to be the #1 real estate agent in Mammoth. I remember when I first met this guy at one of the business things, I could tell he was going to do something. And good young guy. I mean, he knows the market just as well as anybody else and will hustle harder than anybody else, I think. So hire this guy if you're looking to get some real estate.
Welcome to Real Mammoth, where we talk about real stories and real estate here in Mammoth Lakes, California. And today I'm joined by Jason Blakey, who is the founder of Mammoth BNB and Faultline 395, an apparel company here in Mammoth Lakes. Jason, thanks for being here.
No problem. I appreciate you having me.
And it's a pleasure. So I guess I like to begin the podcast first with kind of how did you first hear about Mammoth, and why do you live here?
Well, I mean, that's a good question. I've been coming to Mammoth for 25 years-ish, and started snowboarding in college at Big Bear. I was in Orange County at the time, and discovered Mammoth back when very few people knew about it. I remember telling people I'm going to Mammoth, and they would say, "What's that?" You know. So, and I fell in love with it, and I've been trying to move here ever since. And then, I was lucky enough to make pretty good money in my career up until this point before I moved here, living in Orange County. And there was a big housing market crash at one point. I was able to buy a really small A-frame, place here in Mammoth. And when the pandemic hit, my wife went remote, and we bolted. We said, this is our chance. Let's move to Mammoth. So we did it. It was, best decision I ever made.
That's awesome. And then your expectation of living here, did it exceed your expectations, or how did that work for you?
Yeah, I mean, the outdoor part of it just blows you away. I mean, there's no better place in the world as far as beauty and hiking and things to do outdoors. If you need to buy a new TV or washer dryer, it gets a little difficult. But, other than that, I mean, it's a great place to live. I mean, I absolutely love it.
That's cool. And you were able to, you're able to start 2 businesses here in Mammoth, but your history kind of starts, you were in the apparel company before you came to Mammoth. Is that correct?
Yeah. So my career before this was sporting goods. I was a sales rep. If you work in the ski and snowboard industry, like a local ski shop or something, there's reps that come in here and they rep multiple lines of different brands. And that's what I did. But I was in the traditional sporting goods. So football, baseball, soccer, things like that. And that went really well for a lot of years, and I made pretty good money at that. And then a lot of that entailed apparel. So it was uniforms and warm-ups and, technical fabrics before people were using them everywhere. I mean, you see it everywhere now. So I knew about the performance fabrics way long time ago, and I always wanted to kind of bring that into like a regular lifestyle apparel brand where you just wear it every day because there's a lot of benefits to it, moisture wicking and, breathable and stretchy and all that fun stuff.
Mm-hmm. That's true. And before we dive into your businesses, I want to ask you, how was Mammoth back 20 to 30 years ago?
It was a lot mellower.
Yeah.
It was a lot easier to live here, probably, a lot less people visiting. This was pre-Instagram. This was pre-Icon Pass. Dave McCoy still on the mountain. You could work at a local ski shop or a coffee shop and rent a place for relatively cheap. So, it was a really cool place to be. And, even on the weekends, you could come up here and there wouldn't be big, long lift lines. June Mountain was dead. I mean, you could go there on President's Weekend, which is coming up here, and there'd still be nobody at June. So the secret's out on June.
Yeah, that's true.
But, I mean, we're talking about Mammoth, but it's, it was a pretty cool place back then, but I mean, it's obviously evolved and been improved a lot. They've upgraded a lot of lifts. I remember Chair 9 used to take like 20 minutes or something like that. Oh. So, which is why I loved it, because nobody went over there. You'd just go to Chair 9 and you'd have to sit on the chair for 15, 20 minutes. But so there's been a ton of improvements, and, there's a lot of reasons why it's better now also. But back in the day, it was just a sleepy town and, not a ton of stuff going on.
I've had people explain Mammoth back in the day. It was more like a truck stop. You just pull over, maybe get a few runs in, and then just go back home.
Yeah, I mean, there was not a lot going on. There wasn't a big op-race party. There wasn't a ton of restaurants. I mean, there's not even a lot here now, but back then there wasn't very many. There was no village, but I mean, it was great. I mean, it was awesome because it was sleepy little town, and like I said, you would tell people, I'm going to Mammoth, and they would say, what's that? Where's that? They wouldn't even know what it was. So it was a great place. I mean, it still is.
Mm-hmm. Now, as a local, how do you feel about living here, especially like during the holidays when the town starts from 5,000 to 7,000 people, and it goes to maybe closer to 40,000 people over the weekend?
Yeah.
How does that feel as a local?
I mean, it's a little hectic, but I mean, that's when everybody makes their money, I mean, if those people weren't all coming up here, then, that's the period where everybody's going to restaurants. All the bartenders and waiters are hopefully making good tips at that time. The rates you can charge for an Airbnb are kind of astronomical. It's kind of surprises me every year how much people will pay to come up here during the holidays. Don't try to go to the grocery store. I mean, everybody knows the legendary 20 people long lines going all the way down the aisle. Or if you do go to the grocery store, go early in the morning or late at night.
Right.
It's just the restaurants are a little crowded, the lifts are a little crowded, but I mean, that's the beauty of Mammoth. It's so big, and there's so many great lifts out there that you find the one that doesn't have a long lift line and just go lap that. So you can still have fun, and you still get out to the restaurants, and there's a lot of hardworking people here that get the job done, and it's still a great time.
Totally. Yeah, I agree with that. And you mentioned, Airbnb and what people pay. And so that is your business, Mammoth BNB. How did you come up with that idea? And what's your experience running that type of business here at Mammoth?
Yeah, so it's kind of an interesting story. When I was living in Orange County, I had a little granny unit on the back of my house that was just going unused. Occasionally I'd have friends crash there or whatever, but I basically never went back there. It was just a little one bedroom with a bathroom, nothing special. And, I believe I lost one of my lines where I was explaining I had multiple lines I represented as a brand rep. And so my income dropped by like 40%. So I started putting it online, and I was in a town called Fullerton. You may or may not be familiar with it. It's right in the heart of Orange County. And it just sold out, and it was crazy. I don't know there was nothing special. And lo and behold, Disneyland is 10 minutes away. So it was just Disney's this economic juggernaut, and it was just selling out. So that's kind of when I learned about the business and how to, rent and what was involved in it. And, when I moved up here, I didn't have a job. I didn't have anything because the pandemic hit and sporting goods were non-existent. So, I figured I'd try to start a management company up here, and it's gone pretty well, I must say.
Oh, that's really cool. And so with your property management company, how many Airbnbs are you running currently?
So right now we have 18. So we're pretty small. I mean, I think there's a couple people in town that might be a little bit smaller than that, like 10, 12. There's some guys in town that have 20 or 50, and then there's 3 or 4 big companies that have like 500,
right.
So we're kind of on the smaller side, and we want to stay that way. We don't want to get to 200, Who knows, one day. I shouldn't say never. Mm-hmm. But, they're a ton of them in town, and the demand is high for rentals here. And, it's a service that you provide that's a needed service.
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah, everyone's always asking us like where to stay. They want to know what's pet friendly. It's a big economic driver to Mammoth Lakes in general. And so about that, so for a ballpark number, what does your average client make with their Airbnb per year?
So that it's tough to answer. It varies a ton. If you have a studio place versus a 3-bedroom, is it upgraded? Is it all brand new, Pottery Barn furniture, or is it 20-year-old furniture that you just left in there? Upgraded countertops? Did you get professional pictures? Blah, blah, blah. So there's a million factors. I would say if you're making 50% of the gross amount that comes in, you're doing pretty good. I think most of my clients are in the 56, 57% because we're a lower priced option. So, 1-bedroom average place might do 40 to 50 grand a year. Nicer 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom could do 100. Some of the village units can do 150 plus. And if you've got some, I'm sure the limelight places, they're going to be, depending on the demand for $5,000 a night rentals or whatever. I mean, they could do $500,000 a year probably,
Yeah, we'll see. I think some of just through Air DNA, some rentals that I've seen on there, it's like the homes by Juniper Ridge, right by Eagle Express, Chair 15.
Yeah.
Some of those, according to Air DNA, are making $400,000 to $500,000 a year.
Those ones are nice. Those are the ones you go on the lift and they're right on the left and they've got the jacuzzi on the deck and you just walk out and ski down to the lift. Yeah, I can imagine those could crush.
Yeah, oh yeah, easy. They're beautiful homes. But for your clients too, I guess again a ballpark number, what's the average occupancy rate here in Mammoth?
So really, there's about 6 months out of the year where you can make money. The rest of the year, you're just trying to fill in dates and get a little bit of income. So obviously, midwinter, starting mid-December, probably through mid-April, you can make pretty good money. And then there's 2 months in summer, July and August are good. And then the rest of that is kind of shoulder season. I mean, we're getting more visitors here during the off season and it's a great time to visit, by the way. So if anybody's looking at this and trying to figure out a nice time to visit Mammoth, if you come in like October or like late April, they're great times of year to be here and you can get a really good deal on an Airbnb.
Totally. Yeah, that's a great point. And just to give people an idea too, for our Airbnb, we have a 1-bedroom, just kind of low budget, just right here in town. And we can charge anywhere from $99 a night, but around Christmas, it'll be closer to $500 a night. So it varies. And I try to get people real on seasonality. And so when you have that conversation with clients, how does that usually go? And, because my conversation is, look, it's a great way to offset expenses. Like it could pay, like your HOA fee, property taxes, sure. But like with the prices and interest rates right now, it's really tough to break even if you have a mortgage. And so what does that conversation look like when you're speaking to a new client?
Yeah, so I typically tell them, don't expect to make like some huge profit. I think largely if you're using the condo yourself, you got to factor that in. Because if you're coming during Christmas, you just saved yourself $5,000.
Yeah.
So, I tell people not to come during Christmas because they could make that money. But, I don't have any restrictions or cutoffs or when you can and can't rent for my program. It's a tough conversation because people think they're going to make big bucks on it. And, I think if they can pay most of their mortgage or half of it or whatever, everybody's different. But a big factor is how much snow we get. Is there a wildfire that's got smoke into town? That can affect your income quite a bit. So some of those factors obviously ebb and flow from year to year. But, you can make pretty good money if you are doing it as just an investment and not up here a ton. And if you do come a lot, I think you have to consider all the money you're saving by not staying in a hotel or another Airbnb.
Absolutely. And what are the best areas in Mammoth Lakes for an Airbnb?
So, that's a good question also. I would say There's not really any specific area. Mammoth is 1 mile wide, right? Something like that. 1 mile circumference. Is that the right term?
Oh,
Whatever.
I think the going kind of estimated dimensions for Mammoth is 4 by 4 miles square.
Okay, so it's 4 by 4 miles. So, and the shuttle runs everywhere. There's really no bad place. You know, there's nothing better than the other. I find that people will rent over by Eagle Lodge. They'll rent up by Canyon Lodge. And town's great because you can walk to Vaughn's. You can walk to Distant Brewery, you know, things like that. So every place has its good and bad, I guess. I would say the hottest area as far as getting a higher rate is in the village or close to the village. If you can walk to the village, not have to worry about parking, you grab your board, you walk across the street. You know, there's several complexes within a couple blocks of the village or in the actual village. That seems to be the hottest thing. I personally like being in the downtown area just because you can walk to the grocery store. There's a shuttles pick you up right there. You still don't have to worry about parking. Walk to the breweries, walk to the coffee shops. I mean, it's a nice perk in the downtown area personally.
And that's what I say too. I like downtown too. And when I say downtown, just like Jason said, we're talking about like between Grocery Outlet and Vaughn's, Sierra Nevada Resort, that whole area. It's kind of downtown. I like it, just like, but for your reasons too. Also because it's flat. You know, you can like you said, you can walk everywhere. You know, cleaners are usually like okay with cleaning anything in the town area because you don't have to drive up, you know, the steepest hill in Mammoth just to get there.
Yeah, it's true because some of these complexes up near Canyon and stuff, there's big hills and, you know, when it's snowing, it can be tricky navigating it even in a 4x4 depending on how much it's snowing.
Totally, exactly. And then also it's almost, you know, everyone does want to be close to Canyon in the wintertime, but I wouldn't say like it's going to, because every area in Mammoth does have its own seasonality. So I wouldn't like, if you're looking for an Airbnb in town or, you know, anything, or just considering this, I wouldn't like focus on any area in particular. I would first start with you, is what I always say to clients, is just like, where do you want to be? How do you like your place? And chances are 100,000 other people are going to love it too. So don't really get fixated on, I have to be in the village or I need to be by Canyon Lodge. That's just my 2 cents. On that topic though, are there like certain amenities that maybe guests tend to gravitate towards, like public transportation or hot tubs, things like that?
Yeah, people constantly ask about the shuttle. So if there's a shuttle stop close, that's money. Okay. You know, that's a great option. Underground parking or garage parking is a really nice amenity if you have it. I mean, it's not a deal breaker if you don't. The places I have that don't have garages or underground parking do fine. But it's a nice amenity to put on your listing and point out to the people coming up. Because if you've been here during one of these atmospheric rivers, you know, it takes 30 minutes to dig your car out in the morning. And if the plow driver comes by and puts a big berm behind your truck or car, then it makes it even more difficult. But so parking's a big deal. And I mean, hot tubs are key too. I mean, I think just about every complex has a hot tub. Because people, you know, whether they use it or not, they like to see it as an option on their on their listing.
Yeah, and it makes sense too. Like you're on vacation, you want to hop in a hot tub after a long day of skiing or hiking even. So that totally makes sense. Okay, yeah. So public transportation's a big one. Covered parking could also be a nice perk, and hot tub. People ask about that. What are your fees that you charge as a property manager?
So the way we structure our management fee, we don't charge anything until we take out cleaning fees and taxes. So we just feel like it's unfair to charge our clients on the money they're not even making because that money's gone before anybody sees it. So we charge on the net amount, not the gross amount. So we charge a 20% fee, which I think is pretty reasonable. If you shop around town, some can be as high as like 50% even. So we're pretty reasonable that way. And it's after your expenses are taken out. Now, not all expenses, but the two that are, you know, the main, the taxes and the cleaning fees, we remove those. So like net, our fees more like 15-16%.
Oh, wow. That's huge because those are the two biggest expenses typically. Transient occupancy tax, which just increased to 16% total. There's T-bid thrown into that, but we'll just call it 16%. and cleaning too. Even though you charge that onto your guest, whether it's $100 or $500 fee, it's still, that number still goes into your gross revenue, and you still have to pay taxes on that.
Yeah.
So that's a huge perk that you just take that off.
Yeah. I mean, and the cleaning fees are going to be your most expensive thing. I mean, I'm writing $2-3 grand checks to some cleaning companies every month. So,
Easy.
you know, and I mean, some can charge $250-$300 for a clean, and it's just a high demand thing. I mean, there's not a lot of people in town that want to do that work, and the people that do it and are good at it can charge a premium. And I mean, hey, if anybody wants to move to Mammoth and make a ton of money without much effort, I mean, you could start a cleaning company and make $100 grand a year easy.
Easy. I think so too. It's super demanding though.
Yeah, it's not easy work.
No, those cleaners are working so hard. They're working Christmas. They're working Sundays. Like, it doesn't matter. They're doing it all.
Yeah.
My hat goes off to those people.
Yeah, I mean, without them, there would be no business in town, and they work very hard, and they're always, shouldn't say always on time and always great, but they get busy, you know.
Yeah.
So, but they're probably the hardest working people in town.
I think so too. What are some kind of tips for that? Maybe like, just for example, Grace and I were like kind of, again, like you said, nothing's perfect, especially with the cleaning. But we've noticed sometimes maybe the window's ajar when we come and check on it. Maybe the pellets for the pellet stove, it's like empty. What are some maybe kind of tactics that you use to make sure all your rentals are kind of like impeccable or the best they can be?
I mean, really, we just go in and check them, you know, and if something's missing or broken or dirty, we try to fix it before the next guest gets there. I mean, that's really the key. I mean, you got to go and look at every condo after each guest checks out, because you never know what's going to happen. And there's always something, you know, there's always a light out, or, you know, the knob on the sink doesn't work, or the internet goes down, or it's just an endless list of things that could go wrong. So really, you just have to go in there and check it. Also, you got to have good cleaners. You know, not all of them do the same job. I call it the Airbnb clean. They just kind of wipe down and change the sheets and vacuum a lot of them. And then some of them do a much better job, you know. Now, no matter what, the place is still clean and ready for the next person. But good cleaners and checking it every time and just making sure it's ready for the next person.
That quality control part of it is huge. And one thing too that, you know, a lot of people will tell us, you know, because I always explain to my clients about, you know, Grace and our Airbnb and how that works. And I think the biggest fear for people is simply just not being here. And how does it work when, like maybe a toilet is clogged or the Wi-Fi goes out, or, you know, endless number of issues. With your property management, is that something that you just take care of easy? You like don't even bring in the owner?
Yeah. So on our agreement, we have a clause in there that says anything up to $250, we're allowed to just make the decision. So if the sheets need to be swapped out, or a plumber needs to be called to unclog a toilet or something, we just get it done. And, you know, if we have time, we'll call the owners and say, hey, this is happening. And, you know, people agree to it because it's got to get done anyway, right? So, but it is a clause in our contract that says we can just go ahead and do it if it's up to $250.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, just like that's a huge part of the stressful part about running Airbnb is like, I don't want to like deal with guests calling me about a clogged toilet. Just take care of it. And $250 seems like it would take care of most items.
Yeah, and it depends on the situation too. Like if somebody's there, like also if it's like Christmas week and they spend $1,000 a night to be there, you know, and there's a gas leak or something, you just do it and then call the owner and say, hey man, we had to spend $700.
Yeah.
You know, and my agreement is month to month with all my accounts. You just have to honor whatever reservations are on the books. So if somebody doesn't like a decision we made, or somebody thinks we're not doing a good job, they just say, hit the road. And it's happened once or twice with some people I just, you know, didn't get along with, or they didn't like a decision I made or something. But, you know, 95% of our clients have stuck around.
That's awesome. And then are you guys super hosts on Airbnb?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We're not going to relinquish that title. We do everything we can to, get a 5-star review on, every stay. And, a little tip for new hosts is ask for the 5-star review, maybe not directly, but put it in your listing. Hey, we strive for a 5-star review, because I don't think people understand when you're a guest, 4 stars means you screwed up. Like there was something wrong. If you go to 3 or 2 stars, if you get too many 3 or 2-star reviews, Airbnb will kick you off the platform. So, guests sometimes don't understand that. 5 stars. Give us 5 stars no matter what, unless something goes wrong. Then, obviously, if there's something wrong, I'm sorry, that's probably a Airbnb guest calling me right now.
Do you need it? Superhost, super important. Airbnb will boost your listing to hopefully the first page, or better position if you're a superhost. And you're right, you got to tell people what you want. If you want a 5-star review, ask for a 5-star review.
Yep.
If you want people to lower the heaters when they leave, gotta tell them.
Yeah.
And that's a funny thing, is like no one's just gonna do something. You really just gotta tell them.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't even read the stuff you send them anyway. So half the time they don't do what you ask them anyway. But that's part of the business, and that's why you go and check the condo as soon as they leave, and they didn't leave the door open. Or, I've seen some crazy stuff over the years. So
speaking of crazy stuff, what's the craziest Airbnb experience that you've experienced?
Oh my God. So one year, New Year's, in the village, our cleaners were super busy and they didn't make a clean. And I get a call from my local manager, and they were like, it looks like somebody died in this place. And it's right after New Year's, so we're assuming somebody partied. I go and show up because we had to clean the unit real quick for the next guest. There's blood all over the sheets. There's bloody towels in the toilet. And we're like, what the heck happened? So we messaged the guest the next day, and we're assuming somebody had a party, they cut their hand, trying to break a bottle or something. I don't know. We were just thinking crazy stuff because it was New Year's. And apparently it was a teenage kid or younger, maybe 12, that had a bad bloody nose and tried to handle it himself and didn't tell his parents. So it wasn't as bad as it seemed. We still had bloody sheets and towels that we had to deal with, but we were thinking the worst.
Yeah.
Specifically because it was New Year's, weekend. So that was pretty nutty.
Yeah, and that's so funny. And when you do experience, bloody sheets, just things that are soil destroyed, that's something that maybe the owner has an extra pair of that you just kind of fill a place in.
Yeah, so if you have a full service cleaner, which they're hard to get because they're in high demand, I highly recommend them if you can get one. They have all the sheets and everything. In that situation, they would charge you extra for the sheets, but you can go back on Airbnb and ask the guest to pay. If the guest says no, the Airbnb insurance kicks in. So typically for things like that, even if the guest says it's not their fault or they don't want to pay, you can get reimbursed. I've never seen a crazy situation where it was thousands and thousands of dollars in damage. We've had a lot of people just leave a lot of trash or cook a meal and just leave food out and stuff and leave. But the nightmare scenario of broken windows and furniture broken, and that has yet to happen.
Okay,
so
that's good.
That's very rare if it does happen.
Okay, cool. Is there any maybe other experiences, like horror stories or anything that you've learned through just running multiple Airbnbs?
There was one other situation, the record snow year, 2 years ago. That was high stress for everybody, right? And we had these international people coming in for a night, and we had a unit we were managing up on Canyon Lodge. We were just talking about the streets are super steep up there, and it was crazy snow. I tried to go up there to inspect the condo, and there was police and cars stuck everywhere, and there was people skiing down the street. In the middle of the street, just skiing because there was 3 feet of snow on the street. So I wasn't able to make it, and I'm assuming there's no way these people are going to come. Anyway, they got flight delayed and everything, and they drove up at 3 a.m. after the roads were all plowed, and the unit wasn't cleaned or anything. So I get a call at 2 a.m, and I was like, OS,
Yeah.
And anyway, I grabbed a bottle of wine and grabbed clean sheets and went up there and changed the sheets and gave him a bottle of wine and apologized profusely and said, just get through the night. Here's clean sheets and new towels and, just for the one night. The cleaners will be in first thing in the morning. and it was kind of funny because it was, the powder was so good and they had such a good time the rest of their stay, they actually ended up giving us a 5-star review.
Oh, good.
So, stuff like that happens where the cleaner can't make it to the, and I learned my lesson on that one. You just tell the person, hey, the place isn't ready, stay in Big Pine for a night and come up the next day. That was more my mistake than anything. But, just be proactive, know when the snow's coming, know when that potentially might happen and just be ready for it.
Yeah, that's what I've learned that too. Like whether running just one Airbnb, nothing as close as to you, but also just being a real estate agent is like over communicating. No one can ever get mad at you for doing that. So that's a huge.
Yeah, just let them know what's happening, and for guests coming up, stay in tune with the weather. If you don't want to be up here when it's stormy, cancel it a week out. We get a lot of people that try to cancel 2 days before. And it's like, you want to cancel because it's going to snow?
Right.
It's like, we're in Mammoth. We can't just let everybody cancel when it snows.
Yeah.
And you never know. I mean, this last storm was supposed to be like 40 inches or something. And we got, 24 on the mountain and only like 6 in town. So the forecast sometimes is wrong. And, you can't just have people canceling all over just because of snow.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, our town is ran on the weather.
Yeah.
We're super weather dependent. That's why people come. So, but yeah, if anything, it's a good thing that it snows, but it can be a struggle. So now we kind of got into a lot of good detail about, Airbnbs and, general revenue and issues, but maybe an issue that everyone does want us to touch on is the housing crisis here at Mammoth Lakes and, obviously plenty of other resorts. What's kind of your sentiment about, being a local, but also running 18 Airbnbs in Mammoth? And is there anything that you do to kind of maybe make things better? Or if you're speaking to someone who's very maybe militant about Airbnbs, how does that conversation go?
I mean, it's tough. I mean, I acknowledge that there's a housing crisis in town. I mean, rents are high. It's tricky. I mean, I don't know if it's all because of Airbnb. You could put some of the blame on the Icon Pass, where they're selling way more passes now and way more people know about Mammoth. The pandemic, when people all went remote, so the housing prices went up because of that also. So, I don't want to say it's not happening. It's 100% an issue. And how do you address it? I don't know. I just wish there was a lot more information out there on it, like how many people are actually living in their cars, because that's a thing around here, right? And how many of those people want to live in an apartment. I mean, I feel like some of them wouldn't even pay $500 a month because they want to keep that $500 to buy their ski pass or buy lift tickets or whatever, I mean, I don't know. I'm just totally assuming, but, it would be nice to have more information on it. I'm sure the town's working hard to do stuff and do surveys and stuff. So, but 100%, I mean, it's an expensive place to live. I think at the end of the day, a lot of these condos were built for second homeowners to begin with. But should there be a limit or something? I think that's, in my opinion, maybe that's a good middle ground, is just say 3,000, that's the most we can have, or something like that, whatever the number is, and then that would open some stock up for locals.
Yeah, and now that the transient occupancy tax just got increased, hopefully that extra 2% will go directly to housing, and Mammoth, the town of Mammoth Lakes is doing a lot for housing. It seems like, and then you're right. It does depend on every individual. It's not just like we can't think of these people as like just one demographic, because there are people who I've known that they prefer to live in their car because they want to climb all day or ski all day, and that's okay.
Yeah.
They don't want to work, 30 to 50 hours a week. We get it. No one does. Yeah. But it is a sacrifice that you make to maybe, not have a beautiful place in one of the most expensive counties in California. Yeah.
I mean, I think part of it is, if you live 10 minutes from the best ski resort in the country, it's not going to be cheap to begin with. So I don't think it's ever going to be super cheap. Can some things be done? I think so, probably. I mean, they're definitely making it less attractive with the higher tax rate and, things like that. So, but I mean, some of these condos, the HOA itself is $800, $900 a month, So that's not even the rent. That's just the HOA. So, you know, I don't know how you make it cheaper, but, you know, there's got to be a way. I mean, different towns are doing different things. I mean, Mammoth is just so unique in that there's nothing else around. You know, like I know Truckee and South Lake Tahoe and stuff have those same issues. But I mean, there's Carson City, there's Gardnerville, there's Reno. Now, who wants to drive an hour in snow to get to work or whatever? I get it. But there's that option there. Here, we don't really have that. It's like Mammoth is isolated. There's nothing else around us. I mean, there's Bishop. But, you know, now that's so popular with climbers and stuff that's become a housing crisis down there, too. So there's really nothing around here where you can find a bigger town to live in. So it's a tricky situation. You know, one of the things I talk about sometimes is back in the day when I first started coming up here, before Airbnb, before Instagram, before the Icon Pass, there was plenty of places to rent, but there just weren't a lot of jobs. You either worked for the mountain, there was like 4 ski shops, there was like 2 coffee shops, you know, there was like 2 or 3 bars, and that was it. I mean, you know, so back then there wasn't 30,000 people coming up every weekend. There wasn't 8, 10 coffee shops in town. So it's kind of a, you know, the Airbnbs help bring money in, but it also makes it tougher on locals to find housing. Where, like, what's the balance? I mean, that's going to be the hard part. Yeah,
exactly. And just on that point too, is like the town of Mammoth Lakes is very unique in the fact that 70% of its budget relies on transient occupancy tax. There's only 3 other towns, I think, in California that has that high of a budget just based on tourism. And because of that is the reason why we have bike paths and free transportation and these beautiful amenities. And that's one of the reasons why it is pleasant to live here, because of the, you know, the tourism. Yeah. And that is part of the reality. But you're right. It's a juggling act, and like, you know, it could be good on one side, but then bad on the other side, and they do affect each other in some weird ways. So yeah, I think you're right. There's no silver bullet, and it's something that we just have to acknowledge, do our best to, you know, fix it somehow. But on the other point too is like, do you really want to own something in snow country? Because like you said, HOAs could be $500 to $1,000 a month, and that's just the HOA. Talk about property taxes, the mortgage alone, the upkeep. Before you know it, you'll be broke. Yeah. And you know, but like you said earlier too in the podcast, is like, if you want to start a cleaning company, you'll be rich. So that's the other side of things.
Yeah. If you're willing to work in this town, you can make money. I mean, if you come up here and get your electrician's license and all you do is answer your phone, you're going to make a ton of money. I mean, simple as that. A handyman, I pay handyman like $85 an hour. Yeah. I mean, that's, I think down in LA or whatever, which is also expensive, they get what, $40 an hour, 50. So it's, if you want to make money in this town, you can. You know, but then you're working all the time and you don't get to go snowboarding and hiking, you know? So, I mean, I struggle with that too. I used to, you know, when I first started my business and I had 4 or 5 units, I was snowboarding 3 days a week and checking condos afterwards, and I wasn't making a ton of money. I mean, I'm still not, but, you know, it's a give and take kind of thing. And it's tough living up here when there's a POW day and you got to work. You know, totally. Or like a beautiful sunny day, perfect for a hike, and you're sitting in an office, you know, paying taxes, or, you know, writing checks to cleaners or whatever. So, it's, you know, it is what it is. You know, you got to balance life, right? Yep.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and sometimes it's more work. Sometimes other times it's more fun, but there's somewhere in between there. Yeah. Well, appreciate you saying all that stuff. It's really informative. And but lastly, let's talk about your Faultline 395 apparel company, local. Tell us about how like this got started. I know you touched on it earlier, and how's it going today?
Yeah, so I had a clothing brand previously when I lived in Orange County. Was kind of skate, surf oriented. We were up to like 10 retail stores selling it, and it was actually going pretty good, but my regular job kind of got to a point where I didn't want to lose that because I was making really good money at the time doing that. And so I let that other clothing line die. And then when my, you know, main source of income went away, I kind of wanted to get back in that business. And, you know, the idea is to make, I call it mountain wear, you know? So it's kind of like a cross between alpine technical apparel and like streetwear, workwear. So you can wear it to like the brewery or out on a date, but you can also wear it on a backcountry, you know, hike or whatever. So it's going pretty good, you know? I mean, it's super competitive. That business is tough to get eyeballs on your stuff. Our number one event every year is Bluesapalooza. So we set up a booth there, and, you know, that's our number one selling time, those 4 days. So we do really well at live events. It's a little tougher getting online orders because there's just so many brands and so much noise out there. Even a couple years ago, if you were doing Instagram ads and Facebook ads, you'd get a lot of attention. Now there's just so much of it. I mean, anybody scrolling Instagram knows there's an ad every second, you know, scroll now. So, you know, people just kind of skip over them. It's tricky to get the online ads, but when I physically go out and like show people at events and stuff, it goes pretty well. And we've really stepped up our game a lot in the last couple of years. We're making flannels now. This is one of my new tech flannels. We do these 5-panel hats that I'm wearing right now. You showed the two-tone beanie. So I think we have some pretty cool new stuff coming out, and, you know, a little bit more elevated. It's more than just like t-shirts and hats now.
Yeah, I love like the patterns on all of your apparel, hats, and everything. This is the style that Jason gave me one of these hats, and I always wear it. I think it's great for hiking, just going around town. They look cool. This one has like little bears on it. I love the look, and like you said, it's technical, but you can also go on a date with it.
Yep.
I love your stuff. We don't have to talk about this if you don't want to, but it used to be called Mammoth Brand.
Sure.
Do you want to talk the story about that? Can you?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I initially called it the Mammoth brand, and I love Mammoth, and I think the word Mammoth is cool. I did my due diligence. There's no trademark issues with the word Mammoth. But, you know, we got to a certain point, and the ski resort didn't like the name of my company, and they let me know about it through some lawyers. So, you know, initially I was pretty upset and was like, you don't own the word Mammoth. Like, I didn't call it Mammoth Mountain. I wasn't writing Mammoth Mountain on anything. It said Mammoth, but they don't own the word Mammoth. So, you know, I was a little disappointed in it, but whatever, you know, I get it. Like, I'm local and I'm in town and I'm selling stuff with the word Mammoth on it. And, you know, hindsight's 2020. I do recall when I'd set up booths at Bluesapalooza and stuff, people would think I was Mammoth Mountain. So I kind of get it. And I totally, at the end, I said, I'm good with it. Like, I totally get your take on it. I'm in town. You guys are, you know, trying to sell your merch in town, and I don't want to step on anybody's toes. I want to have a good relationship with everybody. So I changed it to Faultline 395, and I actually think it's better now. I mean, I think the name turned out good. I get good feedback on the name. I'm not pigeonholed into just being a Mammoth, you know, brand. So now I can sell in, you know, I do events in Reno now. I did an event in Denver. I did an event in Big Bear this last summer. So we're trying to expand the brand out just from our little, you know, bubble that we're in here.
Totally. Yeah, I like the name Faultline a lot. I think it looks cool. The design's really nice as well. And it's so funny that happened because I think Mammoth Mountain also did that to a few other companies in town.
Yeah.
Like, for sure, I saw, because I worked at the radio for a bit, and then Mammoth Green had on their like little bulletin board the actual letter from the lawyer.
Yeah.
They printed it out and had it posted because they had these stickers that were legitly based off of Mammoth.
Yeah. I mean, it's somewhat ironic because if you know anything about the Mammoth Mountain logo, there's a guy named Basquiat. I don't want to touch on that too much, but, you know, they have their own logo that looks a lot like something else. But, you know, my thing, I never had copied anything that they had. It was just the word Mammoth. But, I mean, I heard that they kind of made a little sweep around town. And, I mean, everybody knows anywhere from, like, Big Pine on up to like Lee Vining, people were selling Mammoth stickers and gas stations and Mammoth T-shirts and some of the shops, and none of those were really licensed, stuff. So, I mean, it's probably still out there, going to a gas station in Big Pine, I guarantee you'll see a Mammoth sticker that's not a Mammoth Mountain sticker. So, I mean, there was probably a need for them to go and clean some of that up, and I totally understand their side of it, and I'm fine with it today. I was a little bitter about it when it first happened, but, I wish they wouldn't have done it in the middle of a, disaster. Declaration. They could have waited a few months before that, because that was pretty stressful. I mean, I actually had to replace my roof.
Right after the
and
big
like
winter,
I was worried about the house collapsing, and then I get this letter from a lawyer. Anyway,
That's
I'm not bitter about it or anything, but it's all good. Now that I look back on it, I mean, it was a good experience having the Mammoth brand for a minute, and I totally understand their take on it, and I agree with, I probably would have done it if I was, the merch guy for Mammoth Mountain myself. So no hard feelings.
That's also nice of you to understand. And but yeah, I love the brand now. Faultline 395. I'll put a link in my YouTube video so you can go check them out. I love this merch, and everything from hats to shirts to, I always wear this hoodie at home. It's just so cozy. It's like a mid-weight hoodie. And then, but you also have some kind of like ski gear as well, right?
Yeah. So we came out with a waterproof jacket this last year. That's good for, days on the hill like today when it's sunny and nice. I probably not super Gore-Tex high-tech $300 jacket. It's only $99. But it's nice for sunny days or for hiking and stuff. Waterproof zippers. I'm also got some riding hoodies, I call them. So they're wind and water resistant, and you can wear them on the slopes or, around in the snow. We got some cool vests, work vests. They're pretty rad. So, check it out. It's faultline395.com. Anybody listening to this, I got a discount code for you. It's 30% off. It's my friends and family code. So it's FNF30. So just put that in at checkout and you get 30% off. That includes all the sale items too, so you can get a pretty good deal on some stuff.
That's a great deal. Thanks for including that, and we'll make sure to put it in the description as well.
Yeah, letter N, FNF.
FNF
30.
Cool. Thank you. Yeah. So a bunch of awesome stuff. Check it out, and then also I always refer you to my clients who are looking for a property manager for their Airbnb, but feel free to go onto Jason's website, mammothbnb.com. and learn all about the business there. And great property manager, on it, local, and expanding as well. So again, before we finish off, is there anything you want to cover?
Not really. I mean, I appreciate you having me on, and Joseph, if not already, soon to be the #1 real estate agent in Mammoth. I remember when I first met this guy at one of the business things, I could tell he was going to do something. And good young guy. I mean, he knows the market just as well as anybody else, and will hustle harder than anybody else, I think. So hire this guy if you're looking to get some real estate.
Shameless plug. Thank you so much, Jason.
Yeah,
Appreciate
no
you,
worries,
man.
dude.
Thanks for being on.